This program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
70 years later, and Nazis still haven't figured out how to be funny. Memes and the alt-right go together like peanut butter and jelly that's been spread in the shape of a swastika. Internet memes are, by and large, the currency in which these young nationalists trade, eschewing the stuffy, articulated treatises of Mein Kampf in favor of more virally friendly catchphrases and image macros to be proliferated around image boards and subreddits. We've put together a field guide of some phrases and memes white supremacists share with one another so that if you happen to cross one in the wild, you'll be able to tell whether your old college friend Gary is simply a fan of 11th century history or secretly wishes to eradicate all non-whites. This is Memeland. Sorry, ladies and gents, it's distinctly possible that I've watched entirely too much Ganglands in my life, and when I started reading this article, the level of understanding and, frankly, armchair daddishness that it held reminded me very, very much of the level of understanding that was usually conveyed in an episode of Gangland. So let's enjoy this beautiful article about understanding and being able to call out the dog whistles of the alt-right. Pepe the Frog. If Richard Spencer is the human mascot of this group, Pepe the Frog is its meme version. Much has already been said about the amphibian cartoon's ascension from fringe webcomic character into neo-Nazi mascot, including by the Clinton campaign. Oh, that'll never get old. Despite the disingenuous incredulity offered by the alt-right and garden-variety Trump supporters, after the ADL added Pepe to its official list of hate symbols, there is no reason to believe that anybody using the character today is at all unaware of the Nazi sentiments attached to it, and should therefore be regarded as complicit in spreading said sentiments with his or her usage of the cartoon. Plausible deniability divorced itself from Pepe usage a long time ago. The swastika was once an innocent religious symbol too. People have a tendency to ruin nice things. Seriously, your official addition to the hate symbols by the ADL is laughable. The ADL itself has become laughable in the past decade or so. Cuck Cuck-servative. Another one that's been covered to death, so we needn't spend too much time on it. Trump supporters have long called those they disagree with cucks because wanting everyone to have access to healthcare is apparently akin to letting a stranger fuck your wife. These people are real. This guy has jumped around from the alt-right to Trump supporters to white nationalists to Richard Spencer to Pepe to the ADL's official requirements for a hate speech. This man's lost his mind. The white supremacy twist on this oldie but goodie is the additional fear-mongering of cuckoldry being carried out by a person of color. Louis C.K. became 4chan's public enemy #1 target for race-based cuck memeing in 2014 by daring to have stand-up material that broached the subject of white privilege. Yeah, they were mocking a stand-up comedian for a bit that, essentially speaking, wasn't funny and was signaling the beginning of the end of stand-up comedy. The last 2 stand-up comedy routines I've seen have been full-out fucking cringe. Be careful about accurately judging intent and seriousness if you hear someone use cuck these days, as normies have gained familiarity with cuck as an alt-right insult. The term began its toothless third stage of life as lefties playfully and sarcastically insult one another with it a la "Thanks Obama" meme. You do realize that, indeed, people are now saying "Thanks Donald Trump" from the left, in the same kind of tone that people said "Thanks Obama," for things that either Trump hasn't done yet or that they perceive that Trump has done inaccurately due to news reporting. It's almost like the wheel turns. Deus Vult. Crusader iconography has long been tied to Islamophobia, so white supremacists didn't have to tweak much when they lifted this Latin battle cry from Pope Urban II's First Crusade. Translating to "God wills it," Deus Vult reemerged after nearly a millennium of hibernation in a 2015 YouTube video of Christian Syrians bombing ISIS. Since then, alt-right message boards have glommed onto the words, using them as if they were a divine permission slip for wishing death on Muslims. Vandals even tagged the phrase on a mosque in Scotland in December. As with Pepe, the window is rapidly closing on claiming innocence when using the phrase. Seriously, do you see what I mean? It sounds like the kind of presentation that you'd get about gang signs or slang from Gangland. It's hilarious. It also misunderstands the actual subtleties of that meme, which is that the Crusades were reactionary to the invasion of the Iberian Peninsula, but of course I'm sure your historical knowledge is impervious, isn't it, sir? Moon Man. Shit, you're digging up a 10-year-old meme? You realize that this is a decade-old meme, right? But okay. Barring the crescent moon, 80s McDonald's ad character Mac Tonight, white supremacists co-opted this wholesome fast food mascot, ironically based off of black music icon Ray Charles, as a face for text-to-speech rap song parodies that aren't worth linking to, that explicitly describe myriad gruesome scenes of murdering black people while dredging up every epithet you can think of. It's like if Stephen Hawking's computer and Weird Al had a really racist child that had an internet connection but no creative talent. This is just a meme meant to get a rise out of you, of course. There's no animus here, right? Well, considering that, as I said, the original version was released in like 2009 and circulated for a significant period of time before arguably normal people got a hold of it and started using it to offend other normal people. And now it's a big deal again, which is cute. Triple parentheses. Perhaps you've noticed a number of your favorite Twitter accounts surrounded by triplicate parentheses. This is the result of a concerned solidarity effort to take back and render ineffective an alt-right tactic of marking, starring, if you will, Jewish journalists. What's most amusing to me is that people that tried to participate in a solidarity effort and an attempt to diffuse the general ability to use the triple parentheses to search out Jewish journalists, as you say, don't seem to understand that if indeed the people that they're operating against are Nazis, as they say, simply labeling yourself as a collaborator doesn't actually stop the effort. Not to mention the fact that it's very amusing to me that you would assume that this was all white people and their problems, where I have a couple pictures I'd like you to see. Conceived of on neo-Nazi podcast The Daily Shoah, these parenthetical echoes were written around the names of Jewish journalists and public figures when mentioning them on Twitter. The idea was to aid anti-Semitic Twitter search efforts. Twitter has since updated their search function to drop the parentheticals, thereby rendering this hateful branding tactic pointless. You can still see it, as used in the video title below, as a sort of racist vestigial organ. You sound like a lunatic as you write this. I know some of it's supposed to be humor, but there's a reason why people don't like preachy humor. Because it's really not funny. Operation Google. We've all encountered that one person who feels personally slighted by his inability to publicly use the N-word while black people have carte blanche. 4chan, that shitty friend writ large, pulled a code word scheme straight from the KKK playbook after Google launched a program meant to filter out such obscenities in searches. Now what's amusing is that it really isn't straight from the KKK playbook. It's actually more akin to something known as Cockney rhyming slang. It was a way to avoid it and simultaneously niggle people about the use of the words, you see. Cries of censorship rang out, and the crafty teenagers quickly formulated a code of replacing filtered racial slurs with tech company names. Jew was Skype, and Fight Club references, trans person was Durden. Again, you don't seem to understand that it was rhyming slang of already existent words. Google kind of had the Cockney rhyming slang with nigger. Jew was Skype, which kind of had a Cockney rhyming with kike. You see, it's not even that hard to untangle, but you seem to have difficulty with it. The spurious logic behind this scheme was that if enough of them started calling black people Googles online, the tech behemoth would eventually have to censor its own pages. That was the gag, yes. That never happened, of course. Instead, a couple of dumb tweets like the one below cluttered up Twitter for a minute. I would invite you to go take a look at Andrei Karp. It's a Russian Twitter account. It's not even from America. It's just out there to fuck with people. And this guy sourced it, which is amazing. We was kings. The Black Egyptian hypothesis is a widely disputed theory that the Egyptian pharaohs and citizens they ruled were more dark-skinned than how we picture them today. Despite this being a fringe theory, the alt-right has adopted it as another weapon in their arsenal for denigrating black folk. Well, I do find it interesting that you're completely comfortable just saying black folk when, some people would even find that offensive. But beyond that, sir, it's not widely disputed, it's laughable. And more to the point, it's not a fringe theory. Many people that I've met in my life, white and black at this point, believe that history has been altered to cover up the black race's many accomplishments. This is but a branch of that. Didn't do or didn't do nothing. Look for this phrase primarily in comment sections of stories about slaying African Americans. Didn't do nothing, often abbreviated as DINDO, is a bastardization of didn't do nothing in reference to claims of innocence that parents, friends, and community members make about the victims of unlawful police shootings. Except, most of them are lawful. Upwards of 99% of them are lawful. And beyond that, many of them do falsely claim that their child did do nothing. And if there weren't so many people out there proclaiming that these people didn't do nothing, maybe the people who legitimately didn't do nothing would have their stories told, instead of a bunch of fucking criminals. Even in cases not involving police or criminal acts, black people, simply referred to as dindus, are still the target of alt-right memes. The presumption of guilt every time a black person is injured or accused of a crime is the small price these white supremacists are willing to pay for the opportunity to mark grieving mothers. Yeah, again, not a phrase even only used by white people. Just an FYI, unless you're out there saying that all the hoteps in the world are actually white supremacists, which... woo lad. Free helicopter rides. Death flights were a common form of extrajudicial execution during the Dirty War in Argentina and following the 1973 Chilean coup, wherein dissidents were flown over the ocean in an airplane or helicopter and pushed to their death. From 1976 onward, thousands of political opponents to Argentina's Admiral Luis Maria Mendia and Chile's Augusto Pinochet were murdered in this manner. Even you using this is heading towards outdated dad, just so you know. At this point, we've moved on to the Polish mercenary Rafael, who was asked what it felt like to take a human life and responded, "I wouldn't know. I only ever killed communists." That's the new meme. You're falling behind even in your lack of empathy for human life meme, friend. This wanton disregard for human life is hilarious to many in the alt-right. Starting in mid-2015, certain boards began suggesting progressive political opponents be given helicopter rides. It's interesting because you seem like the type that would support political violence, considering you had absolutely no problem with the punching and attacking of Richard Spencer and other alt-right personalities. So I don't see the problem with the turnabout being fair play that's occurring right now. And we'll ignore the fat joke that you use in your final paragraph because, frankly, most of the progressives I know are in excess of 250 pounds, so you might want to consider living in a glass house not casting those stones. But that's it for me, ladies and gents. I found this article absolutely delightful, and I will link to it in the description. And I hope you enjoyed this little play on a somewhat popular television show that I've done here. And thanks for joining me. And as usual, stay safe, good luck, and goodbye.